I am so thrilled to have you here today because we're diving into some incredibly relatable and honestly pretty profound territory. If you've been tracking with us through those previous 4 audio sessions, you know we've been deep into this fascinating case study following Alex. She's a young, married professional who's been carrying around just an immense amount of stress. So today, we are taking everything we've learned and applying it to the real world to test Dr. V's Resonance Clarity Framework. We're going to see exactly how Alex learns to actually master her own biological frequency. So, let's jump right in.
Think about this for a quick second. Have you ever sat down for what was supposed to be, just a normal family gathering, or maybe a routine holiday dinner, and walked away feeling completely and utterly drained? Not just annoyed, but physically exhausted? Well, that is exactly the reality Alex has been living. The dining room just stops feeling like a place to eat and suddenly turns into this tactical negotiation zone, like a total emotional minefield. And that physical exhaustion you feel, it's not in your head. It is a very real, measurable biological cost.
If you remember from our previous sessions, we mapped out how Alex acquired what the framework calls a metabolic heavy bag. Think of this as an invisible 40-pound weighted vest, just stuffed to the brim with absorbed anxieties, stress, and completely unvetted expectations from the world around her. And guys, this isn't just a clever metaphor. Carrying this unvetted baggage acts as a tangible, exhausting physiological load on your nervous system. Imagine waking up, strapping a literal 40-pound vest to your chest, and then trying to gracefully host a dinner. Your baseline exhaustion is already so high that your capacity to process any new information, it's severely compromised.
Okay, let's dive into some real-world friction. Because theory really only goes so far in a vacuum, right? The true test of any cognitive or biological framework is applying it when the pressure is really on. So let's set the scene here. Alex and her husband are hosting a tense special occasion. It's a major holiday dinner, and sitting right across the table is her highly negative older brother. Barely halfway through the appetizers, these cynical comments about Alex's career trajectory and even her living room decor just start flying across the table. The air in the room gets incredibly thick. This right here is the absolute crucial moment where Alex has to decide how she's going to respond.
Now, historically, Alex would default to one of two states. She'd either become the incoherent mind, acting as a passive absorber, or she'd shift into the protector mind, basically acting as a fierce defender. And both of these states feel like completely natural human responses to that kind of systemic aggression. But biologically speaking, they completely dysregulate your system. You basically become a victim of the environment rather than the architect of it. Let's break down exactly what happens in the body during each of these default reactions.
Let's start with the incoherent mind. When Alex defaults to this state, she acts as an energetic sponge. She just sits there, smiles tightly, grips her napkin, and quietly soaks up all that tension. The framework uses a brilliant analogy here, actually. It says her nervous system becomes like an old car radio with a jammed scan button. Her brain is frantically scanning, picking up the external emotional weather in the room, so her brother's cynical aggression, and it starts treating it as its own native broadcast. The physical toll here is massive. She is literally metabolizing someone else's unvetted chaos over a comment about a couch. Her cortisol spikes, and her actual digestion of that dinner slows down to a crawl. She is entirely locked in a survival-based posture.
But what if she snaps back? Human nature says you should drop the pleasantries and defend yourself, right? Well, doing that plunges Alex straight into the protector mind, the defender frequency. When that 40-pound heavy bag gets too full and you just can't take one more comment, a literal biological circuit breaker trips in your brain. Your vagus nerve physically shifts its state, yanking you right out of social engagement and dumping you straight into fight or flight. The sympathetic nervous system completely takes over, and this is so physical that the muscles around your vocal cords actually constrict to project dominance. That is exactly why when people snap at the dinner table, their voice becomes sharp, clipped, and completely devoid of warmth. Your body literally changes shape to go to war.
And here is the absolutely crucial point. Defending yourself from that protector state is like intentionally short-circuiting your entire house's electrical grid just to turn off one annoying alarm clock. Sure, it feels like power in the heat of the moment. You think you finally set a boundary, but structurally and biologically, it is a catastrophic loss of energy. Any temporary relief you feel just evaporates in the smoke and ashes of guilt, the awkward silence that follows, and the massive amount of energetic output required for relationship repair afterward. You short-circuit the grid, and now you have to spend 3 weeks rewiring the entire house.
So, if being a sponge destroys your internal peace and going to war destroys your relationships, what's the alternative? Enter Dr. V's core solution, the lotus leaf principle. This is derived from ancient wisdom, but it leverages a very real biological reality. Think about a lotus leaf out in nature. It grows in swamps, right in the thick, murky, stagnant mud. But if you pull a lotus leaf out of the water, its surface is completely, waxily impervious to the mud. It's fully immersed in a toxic environment, yet it doesn't absorb the weight of that chaos. The mud just beads up and rolls right off. And this is exactly what Alex must do at the dinner table.
Let's look at how this translates into real-time action, because let's face it, Alex doesn't have 30 minutes to go meditate in the guest bedroom. She has to deploy this while literally passing the potatoes. It comes down to 3 micro-practices that require very little time but immense internal intention. Step 1, she uses the lotus leaf as a visual anchor in her mind. Step 2, she takes a single, intentional, deep breath. This physically signals safety to her nervous system and stops that circuit breaker from tripping into fight or flight. And then step 3, to make that visualization stick in her biology, she uses a proven psychological technique called affect labeling.
So silently, just in her own mind, Alex says this specific phrase, "This is my unaligned mind absorbing." She just names the process right as it happens. And why does this work? It is purely neurological. When you're being aggressively picked apart, your amygdala, the reactive lizard brain, is just flooded with activity. It's screaming at you to either hide or attack. But by intentionally, silently stating this phrase, you force a neurological shift. Language processing requires the prefrontal cortex, so you literally redirect blood flow away from the reactive amygdala and reboot the analytical prefrontal cortex. You hit Alt-Delete before the system crashes, completely decoupling your core identity from the stress.
Looking at this breakdown, the profound difference is so clear. While the incoherent state turns you into a sponge and results in a damaging cortisol spike, and the protector state turns you into a fighter, tripping your vagus nerve into a frantic survival mode, the aligned state offers something totally different. It offers somatic grounding. By playing the role of the lotus leaf, Alex realizes in a microsecond that she doesn't have to manage her brother's incoherent frequency. That is not her job. She just has to maintain her own internal coherence. She remains grounded, peaceful, and totally emotionally sovereign.
Now, you might be wondering, how do you begin unbuckling your own heavy bag before you ever even get to the dinner table? Well, the framework provides a primary diagnostic tool called the wedge question. It asks, why does life feel heavier for me than it does for other people? This phrasing is meant to be highly disruptive. It introduces vital friction into your daily cognitive loop. We so often get used to carrying that 40-pound vest that we honestly start believing it's actually our skin. This question creates a psychological wedge, helping you realize that this weight is an add-on. It's anomalous baggage that actually belongs to other people, and you have the absolute agency to just take it off.
Mastering a dinner table is a fantastic first hurdle, for sure. But what happens when the trigger isn't just a cynical family comment? What happens when the stakes get higher and the threat is sudden, tangible, and terrifying? Let's pivot to a totally new real-world application here. Imagine waking up on a Saturday morning to a massive, completely unexpected car repair bill that threatens to just wipe out your savings. Financial panic almost always bypasses that absorber state and triggers the protector mind instantly. You want to fight, you want to blame, you want to panic. But this framework, it works for all high-stakes stressors. Alex uses this exact moment to shift right into the aligned mind.
And she does this through an incredible somatic mind-body connection. Because toxic positivity doesn't work when you're facing a massive bill. Instead, she uses physical anchors. Step 1, she plants her bare feet flat on the kitchen tile. Step 2, she forces her shoulders to drop. By intentionally shifting her posture, she physically signals biological safety to her nervous system. This changes her biological frequency just enough to allow for Step 3, where she asks what Dr. V calls the angelic mind question. She asks, what is the most true and resonant action I can take right now? She moves instantly from frantic panic into aligned, constructive action.
But what if the chaos is chronic? Let's look at how Alex navigates intense, ongoing work deadlines alongside her husband. Traditionally, this level of shared chronic stress turns a household into a total battlefield of snapping and sniping. But Alex takes the law of attraction and the law of resonance, and she uses them not as abstract philosophy, but as functional, biological tools. She realizes that the frequency of anxiety she used to broadcast from her heavy bag was the exact frequency she was inviting back from her husband. By dropping the bag and maintaining her internal coherence, she acts like a calm tuning fork. Her calm frequency organically pulls her stressed husband back into alignment without her ever having to say a single word. She drops the bag so she can travel light.
Taking responsibility for your own resonance truly is the foundational act of modern leadership. If you can't manage the biological signal within, you will inevitably be a victim of the noise outside. So I want to enthusiastically challenge you to take action today. You can discover your own current interstate frequency by heading over to drv.com. They have this completely free resonance tool and a custom audio reset activation. Use these tools before your next stressful gathering to really set that lotus leaf anchor, and use them following stressful events to make sure you aren't accidentally carrying away someone else's mud.
As we wrap up this explainer, I really want to leave you with a final thought to mull over today. Think back to that last exhausting conversation you had. Were you actually carrying your own genuine fatigue? Or were you acting as an energetic sponge, quietly absorbing the weight of someone else's unvetted chaos? The choice of what you absorb and what you let roll off is entirely yours. Thanks so much for joining me on The Explainer today, and I'll catch you next time.